Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure to have you again at the second day of the B20 Summit Indonesia. We would like to kindly request your cooperation and please be seated because our event will start shortly. And for the organizing committee, could you please help all the participants to be seated and to be in their place. For those of you who are still at the foyer area, we would like to invite you to please enter the main ballroom as our event will be started very shortly. And for those of you who are joining us virtually, we recommend you to use headphones for a better sound quality. I would like to request once again, ladies and gentlemen, before we start our event today, could you please be seated? And also for the organizing committee, could you please help all the participants to find their seat? Thank you.
Welcome to Bali Nusa Dua Convention Center, BNDCC. Your safety is always our first priority. It is essential that you are familiar with our emergency procedures to the nearest exit doors, emergency stairs and fire extinguishers. Please take a few moments now to locate your nearest exit. In the event of an emergency such as fire, earthquake, bomb explosion, or tsunami is announced over the public address system or an emergency alarm is sounded, please remain calm and listen to the announcement. Please follow the evacuation routes and follow the instructions given by Emergency Response Team ERT personnel. If we are required to evacuate the building, please proceed calmly to the nearest safe exit and follow closely the instructions of ERT personnel to the assembly points. Please do not use the elevator. Use the nearest emergency stairs according to the evacuation route signs. If you require first aid, please do not hesitate to ask one of our ERT personnel. Now you are here at Nusa Dua Hall. Pay attention to the exit doors and evacuation routes. Thank you for your attention. Best wishes for an eventful day at BNDCC.
Jagalah Jagalah alam membentang bertaburkan cahaya surya, sungai mengalir sisi dunia. Benang teduh melindungi para fauna. Danau menghijau sungguh sejuk di mata. Burung membentang menantang fauna morgana. Jagalah, jagalah Zongota.
Collaboration with J Corp Stage Company Bali in supporting local artists in Bali, and they were presenting a rich blend of Indonesia's diversity and also Balinese culture mixed with modern touch in music, choreography, and also costume. Let's just a big round of applause for them once again. So thank you so much, Jarum Foundation and J Corp Stage Company Bali. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Shalom. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the second day of B20 Summit Indonesia 2022, Advancing Innovative, Inclusive, and Collaborative Growth. Let's give a big round of applause for this summit, and of course for you who are making it to the second day of the summit. For those of you who just arrived this morning or yesterday evening, welcome to Bali, and I hope that you have fruitful discussions and also enjoy the scenery and also cuisine of Bali. My name is Rory Ashari, and it is a great honor for me to be here again for the second day of the summit. And for your information, this event has followed the health protocols and also COVID-19 regulations set in Indonesia, including myself, and all the guests, speakers, and crew have been fully vaccinated. Before we move deeper into the event today, which is very packed, I would like to extend our warm welcome to our guest of honor and also speakers, His Excellency Mr. Erlangga Hartarto, Coordinating Minister for Economic Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia. Thank you, Pak Erlangga, for coming. And also to Professor Klaus Schwab, Founder and Executive Chairman of the World Economic Forum. Thank you so much for making it all the way to Bali, sir. Mr. Arshad Rashid, Chairman of the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, KTT Indonesia. Welcome back. And also Ms. Sinta Kamdani, Chair of B20 Indonesia. Bu Sinta, welcome back. And also to all delegates, speakers, and participants. Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday we had many insights and also inspirations from our speakers and from our discussions. Starting from a power panel discussion where three ministers shared about how important it is to invest in the health sector, also on how Indonesia is transforming into cleaner energy to achieve net zero emission by 2060, and the optimism of the tourism sector post the pandemic. And we saw a bit of positive rivalry on the stage yesterday morning. And we also witnessed the commitment, strengthening of the 4 B20 legacies: Carbon Center of Excellence, B20 Wiki on scaling the next generation mid-sized companies to be part of the global supply chain, One Global Women Empowerment, and also Global One-Shot Program. It was really packed yesterday, as it is today. And we are really grateful that this summit is fully supported by PT Astra Indonesia Tbk, PT Astra International Tbk, PT Bayan Resources Tbk, PT Indika Energi Tbk, Sinarmas, April Group, Bakri Group, PT Bank Sentral Asia Tbk, PT Bank Negara Indonesia Persero Tbk, PT Elang Mahkota Teknologi Tbk, PT Goto Gojek Tokopedia Tbk, PT HM Sampurna Tbk, PT Indonesia Financial Group, PT Indofood Sukses Makmur Tbk, Lipo Group, Permata Bank, PT Pertamina Persero, PT Sawit Sumbermas Sarana Tbk, PT Telekomunikasi Indonesia Persero Tbk, PT Virtue Dragon Nickel Industrial Park, Adaro Indonesia, Jarum Foundation, and last but not least, PT Grab Teknologi Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, to kick off our event today, it is a pleasure for me to call upon the chair of B20 Indonesia and chairman of Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Kadin Indonesia, to deliver a welcoming message. Without further ado, please welcome Ms. Sinta Kamdani and Mr. Arshad Rashid.
Ladies and gentlemen, selamat pagi. Welcome to the second day of the B20 Summit. I hope you are all excited as I am about our upcoming round of distinguished speakers and state leaders. I'm honored to welcome all of you alongside of my chairman of Kadin Indonesia and host of the B20 Indonesia, Bapak Arshad Rashid.
Thank you, Shinta. We had a great start to the summit yesterday, but the fun hasn't even started yet. As we gather here, I would first to thank all the speakers, participants, and organizers whose support has been instrumental in making B20 a success.
I couldn't agree more with you, Arshad. We started strong with a dialogue between 4 Indonesian ministers on key investment opportunity. There was a bit of competition between the ministers, if you remember, right? Pak Arifin believed energy is critical for tourism and employment, which was acknowledged also by Pak Sandi. However, Pak Budi highlighted that businesses have a lot to gain from investing in healthcare, which was supported by Pak Mahendra.
Yes, and that's just the kind of enthusiasm we saw across all events yesterday. And don't forget too, Pak Luhut delivered a really insightful point, highlighting that sustainable resources management is the key to unlocking economic growth. Indonesia should not and will not longer rely on its raw materials, but we will focus on developing downstream industries.
Yes, and the launching of our 4 legacy programs. It's amazing to see how far each program has gone. Seeing all the support has given me confidence that this initiative, Arshad, will advance beyond Indonesia presidency and generate tangible impact.
Yes, correct. Let's give a round of applause for the Task Force and Action Council, please. And we ended yesterday on a very high note, concluding the importance of embracing public-private partnership and realizing the concept of Indonesia Incorporated, where the government and the businesses join forces to catalyze investment in the country. Enough recap of yesterday's summit. So what do we have in store for today, Shinta? Please.
Well, today we are focusing on moving beyond policy recommendation and legacy programs. We will have a round of discussion with state leaders, global business leaders, and leading organizations on how to realize growth beyond B20 Indonesia. And at the end, we will present our communique as a call to action to the G20 leaders.
And this communique is more than just a document. We are advancing joint recommendation to initiate a new era of collaboration between the public and the private sectors.
Exactly, and we pass the torch to India. We hope that the ties we built over the past couple of months will remain far into the future.
And to all present, let's carry forward what we have done here to the broader G20 community and beyond.
Our agenda of advancing innovative, inclusive, and collaborative growth should not be a one-time initiative.
Yes, and we can only get there by working together. Or in Indonesia, what we call gotong royong, the spirit of mutual inclusive collaboration. Thank you everyone for making the B20 Summit a success, and together, let's advance innovative, inclusive, and collaborative growth. Let's recover together.
Recover stronger.
Thank you very much, Mr. Arshad, and also Ms. Sinta, Chair of B20 Indonesia and also Chairman of KTT and host of B20. They reminded us about the positive rivalry, positive competition between ministers yesterday. And if you remember, ladies and gentlemen, yesterday we also had a panel discussion on investing in green ventures for sustainable growth. One of the speakers, though, very interesting one, Michelle Chrysostomo, chairman of NL Group, argued that we are not at the right pace on realizing net zero emission and we need to run faster. And a recent study by the NL Foundation and the European House, Ambrosetti, shows that immediately accelerating investments in decarbonization will actually cost less and will have significant positive impacts on the economy, the population, and also the environment. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to listen to our first keynote speaker of the day that will deliver his keynote address about public and private partnership to spur economic growth. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to call upon our esteemed Coordinating Minister for Economic Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Airlangga Hartarto.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Honorable Pak Arshad Rashid, Head of Indonesia Chambers and Commerce, Honorable Ibu Sinta Wijaya Kamdani, Chair of B20 Indonesia, Excellencies, Professor Klaus Schwab from World Economic Forum, Excellencies, Ibu Mutia Hafiz, Chair of Foreign Affairs and Security Commission, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you here today to the B20 Summit. The world is facing historical change. We are in the midst of transforming from one system to another, which is key to addressing staggering and stubborn inflation and harnessing the opportunities of the fourth industrial revolutions, artificial intelligence, and innovation. This transformation can benefit all of us. Government must be at the driver's seat in responding to the future challenge through stronger public-private partnership for concrete policy actions. The B20, encompassing more than 41 countries, recognize the importance of inclusive economy with focus on micro and small medium enterprises and women participation this year. Women, the unbanked population, and the poor must be equally represented in the future business ecosystem. All of them called the bottom pyramid. Ladies and gentlemen, partnership between the public and private sector is the key to the post-pandemic economic architecture. With this partnership, we expect that Indonesia economy to grow at 5.4% in 2022, substantially higher than the initial forecast by the global organization. And in this third quarter this year, we even grow at 5.72% on year. Much of this growth comes from sectors that have bounced back well now that the COVID-19 pandemic is under better control. More recently, the generators of our economic recovery are the air travel, transportation and storage, accommodation, food and beverage, and machinery manufacturing. They are all provide jobs to many workers and benefit even more people through strong value chain. This kind of partnership should harness the benefit of innovations and the fourth industrial revolutions and serve as a common denominator for addressing food security, energy security, and today, with adoption of technology and strong R&D, businesses are more efficient and recording higher productivity. Transformational business must also encapsulate sustainability by accounting for environmental, social, and governance, or ESG practices. This approach is adopted in our plan to build the new capital in East Kalimantan, Nusantara, that will incorporate sustainability, smart mobility, smart cities, quality infrastructures, and human capital developments. Opportunity must be abound for our children and our great-grandchildren. We have succeeded in the past through green revolutions, avoiding hunger and poverty through innovation in agricultural productions. Toward the future, we must be prepared for another green revolution, innovating for a more major transformation toward digital economy that protects our planet and our future. We invite you to be part of Indonesia transformation. Business leader, speaker, ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia is taking action to address high inflation through financial and structural reform. With that strategy, we are taking robust action to strengthen the value chain, particularly on critical minerals, which are central in developing an ecosystem of electric vehicle and automotive. To adapt to the future of work and creating new opportunities to those affected technological and pandemic disruption, we have developed an online vocational education system through the Kartu Prakerja or pre-employment card. The objective is to reskill, upskill, and improve digital literacy while at the same time enhancing financial inclusion. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, let me underline one thing. The ability of the government to resolve the crisis is not unilateral. The business sector is also key to that endeavor. There is an old saying that underlies Indonesia work culture. Bersatu kita teguh, bercerai kita runtuh, which has a meaning, united we stand, divided we fall. Therefore, with this spirit, I ask all of you, let us unite together in facing problems and challenges that we face now. Let's find amicable solution to all of us. I believe we shall overcome those challenges. With Indonesia, let's recover together and recover stronger. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. United we stand, divided we fall. A very strong message by Mr. Airlangga Hartarto. Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our opening addresses. We now proceed to insightful panel sessions for you to listen to and also to follow, preceded by a keynote address that will set the foundation of our today's panel discussions. And it is my pleasure to invite our first keynote speaker, the founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, Professor Klaus Schwab, to deliver his remarks on harnessing the power of innovation for future economic growth.
Excellencies, distinguished participants of this very important meeting, let me first congratulate the government, the President government of Indonesia for exercising such a great hospitality for all of us who are here. I would also like to express my admiration for the quality of the preparation of this B20 meeting. It reminds me, actually, in 2010, I proposed to the chair of the G20 at that time, the Korean chairmanship, to integrate a strong business dimension into the deliberations of the G20, because I deeply believe into the multi-stakeholder concept, which means we all have to work together. Corporations, of course, governments, civil society, to address the big issues in our world. Let me just make 4 remarks related to generating growth through innovation. First, of course, if we look at all the challenges, we can speak about a multi-crisis, an economic, a political, a social, an ecological, an institutional crisis. But actually, what we have to confront is a deep, systemic, and structural restructuring of our world. And this will take some time. And the world will look differently after we have gone through this transition process. Politically, the driving forces for this political transformation, of course, is the transition into a multipolar world, which has a tendency to make our world much more fragmented. And for these reasons, events like this one, the G20, and so on, are the very important connectors to avoid a too great segmentation, I would say, blockization instead of globalization of our world. If you look at the economic transformation forces, I just would like to mention 4. The energy transition which we need, and where Indonesia is playing a very important role. Second, the reshaping of our supply chains, where Indonesia can play a very important role. Then I would also say the integration of external costs, just look at plastics. 10 billion tons a year of plastics are moving into our oceans. And for this reason, I'm so pleased that on the occasion of this G20, B20 meeting, we can announce and inaugurate an O20 to take better care of our oceans. But in addition,
and a greener society. We also have a tremendous opportunity to transform into a smarter society. Transforming a country's transportation network and mobility lifestyle is just one part of this journey to net zero. It is key to sustainable economy. I strongly believe an established EV ecosystem not only has the potential to impact a country's GDP, but also diversify the industrial supply chain and create more jobs. The benefits of EV ecosystem brings to a country's economy is substantial. Extraordinary and affordable devices are imagination made real. In the beginnings of this century, I believe a pivotal moment has arrived again. Taiwan is your most trusted and reliable partner. Through sharing and collaboration, let's thrive together and create a better world. Thank you.
Thank you so much once again, Mr. Yong Liu, Chairman of Honhai Technology Group, Foxconn, for delivering such an important message. 3 fundamentals in harnessing the power of innovation for future economic growth that are share, collaborate, and also thrive. Foxconn loves to share experience, help your country to quickly build up your industry without making the same mistakes as they did. Collaborate, it means build and also localize, whilst thrive means greener, cleaner, and also smarter society. And it is also interesting to revisit what our 2 speakers earlier had to say. Mr. Alangga Hartarto also mentioned that governments must be at the driver's seat in responding to future challenges through stronger public-private partnership for concrete policy actions. He also mentioned about partnership between the public and private sector is key to the post-pandemic economic architecture. And towards the future, we must prepare for another green revolution, innovating for a major transformation towards a greener, bluer, and more digital economy that protects our planet and our future. He then proceeded to invite all of you, business community, governments, NGOs, to be part of the country's transformation. Professor Klaus Schwab also mentioned about innovation, ladies and gentlemen, and he pointed out that in terms of harnessing the power of innovation, he saw 5 imperatives for moving forward. The first one is leveraging the full potential of the 4th industrial revolution, that is, do it holistically. And focus in green economy, as green technology costs have fallen significantly over the last decade and will most likely continue to do so. And therefore, a fast transition to clean energy is cheaper than slow or no action. Thirdly, create genuine private-public partnership, make innovation socially sustainable, and last but not least, build the human capital needed for innovation. He then concluded with government and private sector must cooperate, and once again, it's not about big fish versus small fish, but it's about fast fish versus slow fish. And apart from the speakers that we had earlier today, we're going to have a very packed agenda today, that including a conversation with the Binance CEO, Mr. Changpeng Zhao, and of course, Mr. Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, SpaceX, and now Twitter also. And we're also going to take a listen to what Her Majesty Queen Maxima of the Netherlands, in her capacity as UN Secretary General Special Advocate for Inclusive Finance for Development, has to say, as well as actress Anne Hathaway, in her capacity as UN Women Goodwill Ambassador, speaking about unlocking the full potential of women in the economy. Now, the setting is ready, ladies and gentlemen, for our panel's discussion 1. It is time for us to gain deeper insight about the topic of harnessing the power of innovation for future economic growth. Now, I would like to invite the moderator and panelists to come up on stage. The moderator for today, Mr. Jack Azaguri, Group Chief Executive Accenture, and the speakers are Ms. Candice Johnson, co-founder of SES and Laurel Teleport Europe, Mr. Christian Guevara, Chief Executive Officer of Telefonica Brazil, Mr. Anthony Tan, CEO and co-founder of Grab, Mr. Alvin Sadat Maja, President Director of Elang Mahkota Teknologi, Mr. Deep Kapuria, Chairman of the High Tech Group. Mr. Azaguri, the time is yours.
Good morning, Excellencies, distinguished participants. It's a great pleasure to be with all of you together here and with distinguished panel. I also want to say a huge congratulations for a flawless organization of this B20 forum that is surrounded by the unique and warm hospitality of Indonesia. We have an amazing panel here. I will do quick introductions and set the context. In alphabetical order, I'll start with Alvin Sadat Maja, who is the President Director of MTech, one of the region's largest and most successful technology, media, and healthcare companies. Anthony Tan, CEO and co-founder of Grab. The company needs no introduction, one of the most successful startups in the world, with a super app that covers payments, delivery services, ride-hailing, and much more. Candice Johnson, founder of SES and co-founder of Laurel Teleport Europe. She is the entrepreneurial mind behind some of the largest and most successful satellite companies and chairs one of the largest private equity funds related to space. Christian Guevara, CEO of Telefonica Brazil, also known as Vivo, one of Brazil's largest telecommunication company. And last, but by no means least, Deep Kapuria, chairman of the High Tech Group, the highly successful India-based auto components and technology manufacturer. I want to set a little bit of context before we get to the panel discussion. We have made some progress during the pandemic around internet and connectivity. But today, 2.7 billion people in our planet still are disconnected. We have to do better. We have a responsibility as business and government leaders to do better. We know that telecommunications and digital connectivity drive GDP growth. The UN has showed it. AI can drive double-digit increase in GDP. And our own research shows that 88% of CEOs, many of you in the room, are going to significantly increase digital spending despite the backdrop of uncertain economic conditions. 60% of global GDP relies on digital communications technology. But the RAND Corporation has said that 14 of the G20 nations can miss out on $11.5 trillion of economic growth because of the skills gap. And that's what it boils down to for me, closing the digital skills gap. We have to be talent creators, not just talent consumers. We have to do better. At Accenture, 20% of our entry-level hires in the US do no longer have 4-year degrees because we focus on skills, not what university they came from. Our own research shows that if we doubled the level of digital fluency amongst women, we would close the pay gap, the gender pay gap, by 21%. And we also face a problem with 32 million refugees around the world. And I know many of your companies and ours are hiring refugees from Afghanistan, from Ukraine, and other parts of the world. So let's start the discussion. And I'm going to start with you, Anthony. And my first question, I'd like to get your perspective on how innovation can drive global economic growth.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a real honor to be here. Well, first of all, in recent years, you just talked about it, it's been tough for all of us. But there has been silver linings. So for example, if you look at the recent studies, whether it's Accenture, McKinsey, many of the shows how digital adoption has been accelerated over the 4 or 5 years ahead of time. And we've seen it, one of the other silver linings, 100 million new internet users in Southeast Asia. But how did this happen? I mean, we've seen actually many of our what we call UMKM or small and medium or micro SMEs have a tough time trying to embrace this change. And companies like us, how do we help them embrace this change? How do we uplift them? One thing we've done is just during the pandemic, they had no choice. Lockdowns, they didn't know how to start their business. They didn't know how to restart, how to sell. So we created things like GrabMart, where we accelerated their business. Imagine, in your wet traditional market, on demand now you can get that service for all your grocery needs. We've been able to do that. I'll give you a quick story. Ibu Siska, which is a lady selling a small stall about this size. She used Grab. It accelerated her business. She now generates about $15,000 US a month. And she even knows how to use our digital advertising tools, our financial tools on her app. Right? This was a lady in her 50s, and now 90% of her business is online. That's the beauty of really accelerating that. But again, that's not enough. I think even building new tools, forcing ourselves to innovate for uplifting them is insufficient. One other thing we need to do even beyond that is how do we digitize even beyond just Jakarta, which is a great city, but the tier 2, tier 3 cities. And with that, I am very blessed, Grab is very blessed to have a great partner, MTech, who together we acted on Kota Masa Depan, which meaning building future cities. And together we've been able to accelerate digitization across these cities. But I'll let Alvin talk more about that.
That's an amazing story, how you changed people's lives. Alvin, I'm going to turn to you. MTech was founded in '83 as a distributor, now a huge organization. Your thoughts on innovation to drive economic growth?
Thank you, and it's an honor to be here. I will speak from a very practical experience for us as a business group, where we have witnessed economic growth driven by the various ways of innovation and technology. For us as a group, we are able to enter into many new businesses which were previously considered to be off limits in the offline/analog world. Businesses like e-commerce, retail, payment, digital banking, online healthcare, OTT, which in the old world required a lot of capital, resources, and time to build the infrastructure needed to support a competitive business in those verticals. Were suddenly open. And technology have completely rewritten the rules of engagement of what can and can't be done, how fast you can scale a business and build a business. If you can provide a service that is relevant and value adding to your customer, then you can build a very sizable business quickly. So there's been a big reshuffling of the deck across the various industries where new players have emerged thanks to technology and innovation. Secondly, and I think, I feel that we have been engaging in a lifelong and never-ending process of digitizing our traditional businesses, transforming, tech-enabling, if you may, which is much more difficult to do compared to creating new businesses from scratch, where you have a modern platform and you can rethink everything from the ground up. Because of COVID, we are forced to accelerate that process and really relook at business processes, supply chain, customer facing. And because many of our businesses are in the services industry, we have so much data, which in the old world is somewhat meaningless. But in today's world, with a modern data management platform, so much can be derived, so many insights can be derived as to our customer, our market, which in turn can be used to provide a better service and value add to our customer. Thirdly, this is something that I feel is often very overlooked and also underappreciated. is the importance of having an innovative and forward-looking government policy. As an Indonesian, I have been very proud and fortunate to have a government under the leadership of President Jokowi who's been able to not only have great vision, but marry that vision with leadership and execution so that the policy that comes out really results and fosters wealth creation, job creation, and the eventual trickle down and multiplier effect in the economy. Take a very practical example of nickel. I think 6-7 years ago, Indonesia used to export less than $1 billion worth of nickel and nickel products. And since the government came up with the policy that the midstream and downstream process needs to be done onshore, we have seen one of the biggest value creation, job creation, and and the skill transfer from the developed world to the developing world, which is immense. And in this year, I think alone, we will see more than $20 billion worth of export in the nickel category. And when the downstreaming is complete with the battery and EV, I think the numbers will approach more than 100 billion eventually. So it is clear that the great policy making, very forward-looking policy making, implemented correctly can create so much value. So out of those practical experience, I'm a big believer that innovation and technology can really drive economic growth forward.
Certainly very compelling, and there's no doubt there's been an acceleration during COVID, a compression of the time it takes to transform. Deep, I'm going to go to you, and I'd like to get your views on lessons learned. Technology doesn't always deliver on its promise, but I'd like to get your views on lessons learned in your application of technology and innovation.
You know, it's, innovation is something that is possibly the lifeline for any company. Whether it's conventional manufacturing, we are in both, or a technology company. However, which was just expressed, that when you are in a legacy kind of a manufacturing environment, to bring in innovation is very, very different than to bring in innovation to a technology company. So when you're trying to get a manufacturing company to innovate, you need the buy-in for a lot of issues in terms of how you get the adaptability, and not only adaptability, but the acceptance as a culture of innovation. And that's the struggle. Many a times what we have done is used analogies. When you're trying to change, you bring in analogies to say that how can you do quick, let's say, tool change in less than a minute when you're taking 30 minutes doing it. So you bring them to a Formula One car and say, you know, this is how it works. So these analogies sort of bring that culture to an innovative culture. But on the other side, the technology side, you have a very different side of workforce. A workforce which is ready to go. So many times you have to hold them to a way that you have limited issue of experimentation. So what it happens is that how do you limit yourself and also say that, okay, you can fail. You know, that acceptance is that when you design an experiment to fail, and what you don't actually reward is just success, but you also say that not doing anything is something not acceptable. I think that brings in a lot of the cultural change to bring in innovation.
I fully agree, the importance of failing fast, but not acceptable not to try. Candice, you've architected one of the world's largest satellite space systems. I'd like to get your views on lessons learned from innovation.
Yes. So I have asked if I could perhaps show some slides, and our wonderful tech company, there you go. Okay. So, you know, I was born in a family that my satellites for the United States and then did the world's first private satellite system. So from the time I was 5 years old, when I received a toy Sputnik on the Christmas tree with Santa Claus inside, I thought everything good came from space. And, you know, innovation, so important. But you know what? Inspiration, I think, is even better. So this is a picture when I was 30 years old, 35, and we're in Kourou, and we're launching my first satellite, SES Astra 1. The Grand Duke of Luxembourg is behind me, good-looking guy. The Prime Minister of Luxembourg with the white hair is behind him. 5 years before, I had conceived Astra, the world's first private trans-border satellite system. You see, in 1983, you can see that we are covering all of Europe. Not half of Europe, as it was at that time, but all of Europe. And so when we launched our satellite in 1988, 9 months later, the wall fell down, and we had a satellite system that could cover all of Europe. And we started it from that very, very little country in Luxembourg, between Germany and France. You can barely see it on the thing. So, you know, you always have to go forward. And when the wall fell down, I conceived the first transporter launch cooperation, commercializing not American technology like Elon Musk, Russian technology with American marketing, ILS, International Launch Services, and you see my satellite, Astra, on the top of that, 1995, April 9th. It's one thing to become number one, it's another thing to stay number one, and circumstances made it that if I was going to keep my satellite system, SES, Astra, independent, I needed to go global. And so 2001, I architected SES Global and became the world's largest satellite system. Now, ladies and gentlemen, remember that first picture where unfortunately I was the only woman? Well, you know what? Things change. And so here, Oceania Women's Network Satellite, 10 years ago, a couple of women and I in the Pacific and Global Telecom Women's Network, we got together and we created and helped create Pacific. And I'm very proud to say that we're bringing high-throughput broadband internet to all of the islands in the Pacific and also here, there we go, also to Indonesia. And it's so great to work with, isn't it? And private initiative, and we just got together, this satellite, to colleges, to universities, to hotels, to hospitals, to villages, etc. I have described my life as going from providing satellites, or using satellites to provide universal access, and going to use satellites to provide access to the universe. And indeed, we do have space debris now. We have intended and unintended objects, and we are also using now satellites to be able to use, to observe our Earth, to help with the Earth observation, with the ocean observation. And we also, such as North Star, to be able to provide space traffic management, very important. And Jack talked about the fact that I'm also the chair of Seraphim Space, the world's largest space tech fund. We're investing in innovation. I see everything. I see young people coming together and building in labs for, you know, food on Earth and food on the moon. I see another young woman building her own spaceship to do pharmaceutical possibilities in microgravity. You know, hopefully one day we're going to also get a Haha, let's just see if we can't get this. There we go. An all-female space crew for the International Space Station. So.
It's an amazing story, and also great to see the progress in diversity from your first picture in the 80s
I thought it was kind of
to
fun.
today.
Particularly for the women empowerment here in Indonesia. Yeah.
Christian, I'm going to go to you. You chair the B20 Digitization Task Force. Amazing work in Brazil in terms of promoting and deploying digital technology and connectivity. Your thoughts on the growth, how to drive more innovation, how it drives economic growth, and also maybe your view in developing countries.
Okay, so thank you for the invitation to be here. I'm from Brazil, not far away from Indonesia, but being here for these 2 days, you can see a lot of similar things about the challenge that we face in our country and you face here in Indonesia. No, we are like large country with large population, and I do believe that digitalization can change, especially reduce inequality, include other people, and bring much more diversity to our companies. So during the pandemic, innovation was accelerated. I think Anthony gave an example, and we could see this example not only in our company, but in our customers, our clients. Companies that were not prepared to handle the digital relationship with customers, they suffered a lot. And at the same time, they started to accelerate this implementation. Even us, as family members, we had everyone back home, and kids needed to go to school, homeschooling. We needed to work from home. So we have like the largest fiber network in Brazil. We have today 22 million home passed with fiber. And we saw the demand for fiber rising during the pandemic because we were so used to have download, and suddenly we were also needed to use upload. Video became part of our lives. So that's innovation. Companies started to invest in cloud. Companies started to invest in collaborative tools. Companies started to invest in cybersecurity, because protection of the digital world is also changing. So that's a big shift. And as an organization, we need also to change many things. We are now working in a hybrid model. We started before the pandemic. We were maybe a little bit ahead of time. But now that's the reality that people really want to work in an environment that can be on-site, but also working from home. So we need to adapt. That's also innovation. To attract people, talented people, to develop new skills, we need to change not only the culture, that's also important, but the way we work. So we are trying to implement many different methodologies to work with more design thinking, more critical solving, and also bringing diversity to our workforce. People need to be seen as a society in our workforce. They was talking about gender, we need to talk about race, we need to talk about people with disabilities. We need to include everyone to make it really foster innovation, creativity, and that's what we are doing today. And in the B20, participating as a co-chair was great because the challenges are there, and we need, as a country, Indonesia, then next year is going to be India, then it's going to be Brazil, 3 countries with similar things where we believe digitalization needs to be more accessible, and it has the power to change inequality, to bring education to those who don't have it in the physical world, brings health to those who don't have it in the physical world, bring financial inclusion to those who don't have it, and there are many examples here. So again, I think we're in the beginning of the journey, and innovation has to be part of our journey as a company, but as a provider for solutions for customers, B2C and B2B.
That's amazing developments in Brazil. I'm going to move to an important question, which we heard earlier, the role of governments, public partnerships. We heard that earlier from Professor Schwab. And I'm going to start with you, Deep. I'd like to get your view on public-private partnerships, the role of government, how to collaborate.
It's possibly the most important thing going. The challenge is to translate it. It's a great idea, public-private partnership. It's been there for a while. It's a lot of I think the way that it's being approached, at least in India, is that get the participation both on the side of technology and inside of investments. It's important because if you see overall in the given situation, and specifically in the recent past, after COVID, that the companies are not making that much money to spare for the innovation or technology. But on the other side, it becomes important for the government to come in at this point so that they can work together on these projects. Let me give you an example of it. I also chair a public-private partnership company, which is called Global Innovation and Technology Alliance. It was started about 10 years back with the whole purpose to create an ecosystem for innovation and get companies to start, and even the startups to start doing research and development. And the concept was that not only use the government funds, but also get into collaboration with the other nations as well. Today we have 9 countries that we are working with. And how it works is that's a kind of one company from, let's say, we have a partnership with Israel, just as an example, and they have tremendous amount of traction from that side. So one company from Israel, one company from India, let's say $1 million worth of project. So $250,000 from the Indian company, $250,000 from the Israeli company, and the balance comes from the governments. So they can do an innovation project of $1 million, which may or may not work. You know, you have to accept that when you're getting into an R&D and innovation project, it can fail. And that's very, very important to accept. So that's one of the thoughts that how the governments can collaborate. The other way that is also being done is of incubation centers. Incubation centers are not only being partnered with universities, but also with the private companies. Like we have innovation kind of a incubation center, which we allow the MSMEs to come in, work from the desks, and provide them some kind of help in terms of literally getting from the aspect of the government funds to the private funds. So you know that the proverbial valley of death is avoided. So there's a public fund, and when they get to the private fund, that's when a lot of the SMEs lose their way and actually die. So that's how it's all operating. And there are many, many such examples. In the interest of time, I'll stop here.
We're going to come close to wrapping up. Anthony, I'd like your final thoughts on the topic of public partnership, and especially what it means in developing countries. Anthony.
So just two, given time is short, I think number one is governments and companies like ours, how do you work on minimal to no friction? So, you know, one, I just want to celebrate the Indonesian government. We worked with the Ministry of Cooperatives. They were super helpful. They helped us onboard many, many thousands of wet market, traditional wet markets all across Indonesia. So just working together, again, we are small. It's about leveraging and working and standing on shoulders of giants. And there's no better giant than the Indonesian government. That's number one. Number two is, I think on public and private collaboration, you know, we take, for example, EV. EV is a massive social issue, or climate change, but specifically, how do you deal with it with EVs? Effectively, there is a cold start problem today, where, you know, if there's not enough charging stations, a lot of people don't invest in EVs, and if there's not enough EVs, people don't invest in charging stations. So that is one complex issue that we can partner on. So I'll give you an example here, you know, Grab, again, we decided to say, look, we have to solve this with partners like many here, PLN, Pertamina, Gesit, VR. We've been able to partner and launch. Today we have over 8,500 electric vehicles They've done over 100 million kilometers in electric kilometers. Again, thanks to the customers who love it. We've saved over 10,000 tons of carbon emissions. But again, we're just in the beginning. This can only happen with amazing collaboration. And again, by standing on the shoulders of giants, and many of them are here.
Yeah, I mean, you've outlined the role of technology, innovation, combined with sustainability. These things go hand in hand. I want to thank this distinguished panel. It's been a huge privilege. Please join me in a huge round of applause for our panel.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Azaguri, thank you so much for the insightful discussion. And we got several important notes from the discussion. It's very enlightening as well. Ms. Candace Johnson, co-founder of SES and Laurel Teleport Europe, thank you so much for sharing to us. And she said that innovation is important, but inspiration is even better. And the story of SES that she shared was so beautiful and was so inspiring. SES, for those who are unaware of it, is a satellite communication service provider that offers telecommunication services. And also, she shared about the progress of diversity there in her company. Mr. Christian Gebra, CEO of Telefonica Brazil, also shared about Indonesia, India, and Brazil will become 3 of the biggest economies in the world, and they will need technology to bring things digitally to people that they don't have physically. It's really interesting as well what Mr. Anthony Tan shared, that many of MSMEs or UMKM in Indonesian term had a tough time embracing the change when digital economy kicked in, especially when the pandemic hit. It was dark days for them, for the MSMEs, but Grab's innovation helped MSMEs not only to survive, but up to this day, to thrive. And working together between government and private sector is truly important, and public and private collaboration example is EV or electric vehicle, and Grab has been able to partner with 8,500 EV owners because customers love it and it saves carbon emission. Mr. Alvin Saratmaja of MTech Group pointed out that MTech has been engaging in never-ending digitizing its business, and because of COVID, MTech was forced to accelerate that process. And no less important is great policy and also implementation. And for example, nickel. In the past, Indonesia exported raw nickel ore, but not anymore, because nowadays, Republic of Indonesia exports processed and value-added goods. So once again, thank you so much for the discussion, and we're looking forward to another discussion or one-on-one conversation after this. So after this, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have a one-on-one conversation discussing about investing in future talents, technology, and financial resources with Mr. Chang Peng Chao. It's really interesting. The CEO of Binance once tweeted, in particular on Sunday, saying that self-custody is a fundamental human right, and you are free to do it at any time. Just make sure you do it right. And it's very intriguing to, listen more and learn more from Mr. Chang Peng Chao. So ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned earlier, that our next agenda is one-on-one conversation with the main topic of investing in future talents, technology, and financial resources. So please welcome on stage the moderator and also speaker, Mr. Aldi Haryo Pratomo, Vice Chair of Indonesia FinTech Association, as the moderator, and of course, Mr. Chang Peng Chao, the CEO of Binance.
Hello, everybody. My name is Aldi. I'm the Vice Chair of the Indonesian FinTech Association, and we're here today with CZ, who runs the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange. At the peak, they traded 24 hours, $170 billion of crypto. So this week has been a really eventful week for crypto. So despite all that's going on, thank you for being here with us, CZ. What have you enjoyed the most about Indonesia so far?
I've actually been to Indonesia, specifically Bali, many times. It's a fantastic place. In addition to being a very nice vacation resort, Bali is also the crypto center of Indonesia, right? There's a lot of crypto people here. So we have quite an active community here. I've been meeting with our Binance angels, who are community volunteers, just learning more about what's going on here. So it's been a fantastic experience.
No, thank you, and we hope you keep coming to Bali, you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, let's start with a quick intro, I think, on crypto and Binance, right? So we're at B20 Indonesia. The audience is filled with global business and world leaders. What do you think it's important for them to know about crypto and Binance?
Those are big topics. I think crypto, the way I would describe it is, if you think about internet, it's just a new technology. It was just a new technology for transferring information.
Yep.
That's all the technology is. It's just data packets over a wire or over the air. But because of that, we're able to build entire industries, new economies, virtual worlds. Today, if somebody take away your phone, you feel really awkward. This new technology, crypto, is just a new technology for transferring value.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. So, but with this new technology, we can now build new business models. It's changing the way we do fundraising. It's changing the way we do investments. It's changing the way we do payments. Now we can do micropayments. We can do cross-border remittances. So we can do NFTs, metaverse. All of this is going to come. Some of them are already here, like global fundraising using either ICOs, IDOs, IEOs.
Yep.
It's already here. So if one technology deals with information, this new technology deals with money.
Yep.
So the impact is going to be tremendous. You will impact economic sectors very heavily. The technology for a better form of money is going to give you a better form of a fintech industry, financial sector, which is going to be the pillar for every other sector. So it's very important to understand this technology. At the same time, there's a lot of risks. We're in a new industry. We've seen over the past week things go crazy here. So in the industry. So we do need some regulations. We do need to do this properly. We do need to do this in a stable way. So all of that is happening. Binance is one of the larger players in the industry. Most people know Binance as a cryptocurrency exchange, but we actually have much more than that. We also invest and own multiple decentralized wallets. We also own CoinMarketCap, which is the most visited website in crypto for information. We invest heavily in DeFi, in blockchain technologies, etc. So we also invest very strongly in local economies in different parts of the world. So we also we are probably one of the few platforms who push very heavily on education and charity, etc. So Binance is more like an ecosystem of tools that we want to help people to access crypto with.
Oh, thank you. That's a very broad explanation. So let's dive into the use cases, right? Because ultimately it's about being useful. That's what a technology should be. So you mentioned about crypto's function as enabling entrepreneurs anywhere to raise money globally, like Polygon in India, for example, right? But on the flip side of that is there risk for capital flight, because if money can come in, money can also come out. This has been a concern that some regulators and banks have expressed. What would you say to that concern over the benefits of actually being able to raise money globally?
Yeah, so I'll actually say the reverse. If money couldn't go out, money would not come in, right? So as a kind of an offshore
the founder and CEO of Good.
Remarks of the day is the remarks from the Vice Governor of Bali that will be delivered by Secretary Assistant of Bali. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bapak Igede Indra Dewa Putra SEMM.
Bapak Ibu sekalian yang saya hormati, kami permohonkan Bapak Gubernur tidak bisa hadir langsung pada kesempatan yang baik ini karena beliau ada beberapa agenda padat dalam rangka G20, ada Bapak Presiden dan menyambut para kepala negara di bandara.
Rangkaian hari ini juga berjalan seperti ini. Makanan Bapak taruh di mobil Bapak dan mobil ajudan, mobil Wagri.
we want to make this world better, we have to close that financing gap, which is estimated to be $3 to $5 trillion. That financing gap is going up. It's not going down, unfortunately. If you look at the combined ODAs of governments, you talk $150 billion. That big gap needs to be filled by business. Business needs to step up, is the most important message. What does that mean at the end of the day? I think in most cases, we actually know what needs to be done. We have the technology. On a global level, we have more money than we know what to deal with, to be honest. So how can we now muster, if you want to...
tertahan oleh rombongan Turki.
2 in front of the photo wall and also red carpet from the East Lobby. And also, please bring your B20 Summit ID for entrance. So we will see you at 2 p.m.